Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our third now virtual Heritage Wilmot meeting. And welcome to everyone viewing online, either live or afterwards on the YouTube channel. Next item on the agenda is the Land Acknowledgement. I'll share that with the group today. So we have gathered virtually in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community. Moving on. The third item is the disclosure of pecuniary interests under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any members have any pecuniary interests to disclose? Seeing none, we can move on to review of the minutes from the last meeting. Any comments, questions, submissions, additions? Oh, hey, Patty. If not, could I have a motion to approve the minutes? Al, and second, Patty. All in favor? That is carried. So moving on to business. The only item under business from the last meeting was the non-designated register inventory. Just an update for the Committee on Circulation and Council meeting coordinating. So Marg, Yvonne, and Tracy had been busy getting everything ready for the inventory updates. After the last meeting, Tracy and I finalized the letters to the landowners. There were 19 total. And the deadline provided was May 21st to receive comments back leading up to the council meeting. So people still have a bit of time before any comments are requested. Tracy can update too, but there's been a couple, I think, who have said they don't want to be added. I spoke with one property owner, which was a school at Sandhills and Herb, and they don't want the property to be included. So we'll see what else we get from comments from other people. Tracy, was there anything else that you wanted to add on that? Oh, you're muted.
Well, that's a first. I've been doing this long enough. I can confirm there's only been one property owner
Okay.
that had concerns.
All right. And then I think we talked about last meeting what to do with if we have property owners who don't wish to be added, and whether we want to bring forward a recommendation to council that has all the properties, just so we have the collection of all the schools come forward, and then Tracy could indicate in her staff report which ones have requested they not be added, or if we want to remove them from the request at that time. So just wondered what people's thoughts were on that. Yvonne?
I recall when I did the research into this, and we are not required to have the approval of the property owner to list the property because they're not designated, and it is just a list it's just a list of properties that have heritage or historical value. And other than that, I don't believe that they're and I think that's the reason why we aren't required to actually have their approval, but this is something we should be talking about, right?
Okay, so I think we'll see what we get from the rest of the circulation, and then we can bring it forward at the next meeting. So I know Tracy
got his hand up.
Oh,
yeah, sorry.
I didn't see that.
I was just going to say that the most recent times that we've done this, if there has been someone who's objected, we have not brought it forward.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember one case being the Bechdel property. So we didn't bring it forward at that time. We're bringing it forward now because there's a different owner. So we would be changing our practice that we've been using for the last number of updates.
I can just jump in. We haven't circulated Bechdel before. That was on the list for like this round, like officially. There was one in Phillipsburg was the only one. A property owner.
Yeah. Well, I thought we didn't circulate Bechdel simply because we knew what was going to remember. Yeah. I don't want to go into that.
Yeah. They're circulated now.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a good thing
Yeah.
because we have a different ownership.
Exactly.
So the the schoolhouse at on Sandhills, they're just a new owner. They haven't been there many months at all. They're doing a big renovation there. I don't know. They may have just not given it a lot of thought. It seems too bad to leave that one off, but I don't know.
If I might.
Yep.
Are we talking about the same place? Are we talking about the on urban Sandhills?
No, I'm sorry.
What
I was
used to be
thinking-
North Wilmot?
Yes.
Is that what we're
Okay.
talking about?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm
All right,
incorrect.
and that's
I
no
was,
surprise because we were
No.
that's what we were already anticipating because I believe they had already indicated to Marg verbally, right?
Yeah.
That,
yeah,
okay.
I was thinking of the one just north of there. That's
Oh, okay.
the older, the older school that, yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Back that off.
Mark, did you have your hand up too?
Yes, the owner of Carazon Consulting, or Counseling, which is at the corner of Urban Sandhills, the old North Wilmot. They said by email that they didn't want to be included, and now they've said it again. So that's twice. And I explained it thoroughly when I emailed them. So I really don't think we should include them. I think it sets, well, I know you don't have to, but I don't think it's a good idea to go over the wishes of an owner. It just doesn't look good.
Mhm. And I did speak with him on the phone too. And yeah, he mentioned that he talked to you in the fall, Mark. And I just explained that this is the formal circulating to bring a recommendation to council. So we would definitely take that into consideration.
Right.
Yep, Patty.
I don't think Horizon owns that building. I think do you have the ability to see that? It was bought by the, whatever that school is that's now at the Catholic school in St. Agatha. And my understanding was that when the school with the African kids and, the, whatever it's called, when they bought the place in St. Agatha, then they rented it to Horizon. Now, they may have bought it since, but there was a lease on that in the first years.
Oh,
Is there, we may not even be seeing the right owner here.
It's my understanding that they exchanged properties.
Okay, well, I was for sure told, yes, that could be, but that's not what I was told. I was told that, I mean, in use, they exchanged properties, but in ownership, I've forgotten the name of that.
The
school,
Canadian something
Yeah.
college.
Canadian-
Yeah,
That's it, yeah. That they owned both properties. That they leased the one back to Horizon. That may have changed, and maybe I had it wrong, but that's certainly what I was told.
I
From
think
a
you're right,
real good
Patty.
source. Yeah, I think so too.
I think you're right because Horizon had planned to move totally out of Wilmot Township. But when Canada Independent College bought their former property, it's a lease arrangement. And I think they're still examining what they're doing because they were going to consolidate I don't know if they're in Kitchener, but they were going to consolidate in the city.
Yeah,
So I think they're just a leasee.
I think so.
Tracy, would you be able to check that with clerks? Because I suspect that's where the
Exactly. I was going to say, no, I can double check myself and look up and confirm. So we can, don't worry about that. I'll get the
Okay.
correct.
Barry, you have your hand up.
Thanks. So this might be a question to Patty or Marg or Nick. How do other municipalities handle something like this?
It does vary quite a bit. Some municipalities just add the properties anyway, and either don't tell the property owners until after they've been added, which is what the Act says you can do. And I don't know offhand if there's if a property owner opposes to being added, what they might do. Yvonne.
Yeah, thank you. I did look it up, and there is quite a variety of ways that municipalities deal with it. Some don't bother notifying the property owner at all, and there's some of them that when I got the response, for example, from Woolwich, it didn't sound like anybody had done. They weren't actively adding anything to their list, so it seemed a moot point at that, then. But the Act says the Act says you don't have to, but what Al was saying is, if we are changing the way we've done things in the past, do we have anything that's in writing that actually says this is the procedure we follow, or is this the way we've done it before and that's why we're doing it?
Mark.
Yvonne's correct about it's not having to do it, but it's strongly recommended by the Ontario Heritage people that you do let the owner know. So I think we should, well, we've been doing it and I think we should carry on. And if they don't want to be on the list, let's not rock the boat and let's just leave them off instead of bad feelings. So I don't think that's a good idea.
I agree. Yeah.
That's a good point. Tracy.
I was just going to add that even from like the early days, this committee has always notified property owners. And I know that some of the heritage advisors that would look at this committee were like trailblazers on, being very courteous and making sure we notified and provided the pamphlet on what you need to know. And a lot of it's education, and they see that and they just think they're being designated. So it's a lot of just realizing it's really the 60 days for demolition. And so it's an education process too, but we've always notified. But if it's something the committee wants to look at, if you want to defer it to the next meeting so you can collect more information, whatever the committee decides.
I think it makes sense to see what we get for the other responses, and then we can finalize things at the next meeting. Everyone's good with that? All right. So I guess just to finish up on this right now, so Tracy, you'll be working on getting the formatting for the lists all done the next couple of weeks and start working on staff report, and then send it around to everyone to have a look at, of course. So I think the timeline targeted for council was end of June for the meeting. So that means at our June meeting, we can finalize everything. And then that gives us lead up time before the council presentation.
Right.
And then, also wanted to mention, so we'll remove St. James in Baden on Mill Street because it's designated now. And then also the Baden Emporium, because that building was the one that was demolished a year or two ago. So those will just be the other changes made. And Tracy, I think you said that you could send around the list with all the red lines shown so that everyone can quickly see what the changes are.
Absolutely. I'll identify the 19, so it's easy to look because there's a lot of properties to it. So the committee will circulate, and then Howie, I'm going to circulate your committee as always to have a peek as well to see if there's any comments to make sure all our information is correct. And then we can have a really good look because it's a lot to take in.
Great. So good timing. I think we can move on to new business. We have Bridget here and Harold as well. So Bridget, I understand that you are here to tell us about the CHL project that's being worked on.
I am. Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Heritage Wilmot, for letting me come and speak. I think the last time I came to this committee was when the region was completing the implementation guidelines for cultural heritage landscape conservation. So it's been at least 4 years. And it's ironic that I'm here again to speak about cultural heritage landscapes And I'm going to assume, I know there are some experts on the committee with respect to cultural heritage landscapes, but I'm going to assume that everyone on the committee basically knows what a CHL is, and that the province, through the PPS, as well as the regional official plan, have policies requiring area municipalities to conserve cultural heritage landscapes. So on the basis of that notion, the region, in partnership with the Township of Wilmot, as well as the Township of North Dumfries, and the Heritage Resources Center at the University of Waterloo, are undertaking an initial identification of potential cultural heritage landscapes within the Township of Wilmot and the Township of North Dumfries. And I'm also going to assume that Tracy has updated, or Harold has updated you a little bit along the way. It's kind of been a long process to get to this sort of initial point. We've been talking about it for years. So here we are. And I'll just sort of describe a little bit about the three stages of the study, as well as show you our public engagement platform, that you may or may not be aware it's live. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about potential, just get a cursory list of if you've got any landscapes on the top of your head that you think should be investigated. We'll grab those from you right away. And then also next steps. One of the next steps, I hope, will be a more formal workshop with one of our researchers from the Heritage Resources Center. And hopefully that'll be June. Do you guys recess over the summer?
We do, yes.
Okay.
So we'll have a meeting in June, and then July, August, we don't have a meeting unless there's something pressing that we need to. But
well, I don't think this is pressing, but if there's no room on the June agenda, then perhaps September, our researcher could come in and do a formal workshop with this group. So basically a little bit about the study. So right now we're sort of at the initial stages where we are seeking public engagement, and it's through the suggestions of, first off, municipal staff and regional staff, as well as suggestions from our heritage advisory committees and the suggestions generated through this public engagement. We'll have an initial list of candidate cultural heritage landscapes, and the researchers will also identify an inventory and map the cultural heritage resources and attributes within each of these sort of really preliminary cultural heritage landscapes. So that's sort of the first stage where we're at now. We're just sort of trying to generate a robust list. So once that list is developed and some inventory work and some historical research has been done, the research will verify and expand the list of candidate CHLs if others come out through research. As well as their cultural resources and attributes through field surveys, through historical research, and through the outcomes of the public engagement. This draft list will likely be solicited again for public comment on our engagement platform, either through voting or ranking or other sort of a fun tool to see which cultural heritage landscapes are valued the most, for example, in the community. And then we'll likely also bring the lists back to the Heritage Advisory Committees and Regional Heritage Advisory Committee as well, just to see if there's any further comment on the list, or if landscapes should just be removed right away for various reasons. So once this vetted list, we'll call it, has been developed, it will be evaluated for significance using the criteria outlined in the region's implementation guideline for cultural heritage landscape conservation. And that's basically an evaluation of its historical integrity, as well as community value, as well as basically Ontario Regulation 0906, which assigns significance to heritage resources, or in this case, a landscape. So this final list will be evaluated for significance, and the preliminary mapping of the CHLs which were evaluated to be significant, as well as documentation of each CHL, will be included in the final report. So those CHLs that did not evaluate to be significant, and similarly, those CHLs that were not valued at all by a community, are no longer considered CHLs or even candidate CHLs. So they won't move forward in any way. It's only those landscapes that have been identified as significant that will be included in the final document. On the flip side, I know there's been some discussions that I've had with people surrounding this study. They were concerned that landscapes may not be identified or evaluated because no one from the community spoke about them. And community value can be assigned in various different ways through research. You know, a story was written about it, it was covered in a newspaper article, or you know, even if a community specifically doesn't contribute to this study. For example, I was speaking to someone today about the Bridge Street Bridge. And the Bridge Street Bridge, as well as the Nith River, and this individual indicated that he believed the field naturalists owned some property right in that vicinity as well, that could potentially be a landscape. And even if no one spoke to the field naturalists and the field naturalists didn't come forward and say anything, because they purchased property in that area, you can assume that they valued the natural heritage as well as proximity to the Nith, that community had assigned value to that landscape. So there are ways to assign value without specifically, you know, someone saying, I value this landscape. So I know that had been a concern in the past. But basically, we'll see you again through this study with that preliminary list, as well as I think likely with the draft report. We'll probably bring the draft report to the Heritage Advisory Committee for your review and comments. So we'll see you many times throughout the course of this study. And obviously COVID has contributed to the extended timelines. You know, our researcher had hoped to be out last summer doing one-on-one interviews, visiting archives. So obviously we've needed to rethink the methodology used to gather information, including public engagement. And Tracy or Nick, is it possible for me to share my screen?
I think you should be able to.
Okay, let me see if I can. I'll just show you our public engagement platform. Oh, host disable participant sharing. Is there any way that you can enable it? Oh, I'm the co-host now. Okay.
There you go.
No, I'm going to try that again. I'm seeing your desktop. Nuts. It's not allowing me for whatever reason. So basically, I'll describe to you what it's called. Our public engagement platform. It's web-based, and it is called Engage Waterloo Region. So if you type in and you wanted to visit it, you know, right away in advance of the workshop, you just type in your search engine Engage WR or Engage Waterloo Region, and then click on the Region of Waterloo's page. There, 3 other area municipalities are on the same platform. So click on the Region of Waterloo's page, and then once you get to the regions page, you can scroll down to the Cultural Heritage Landscape Study. And on our platform currently, there is a survey. There is a mapping tool whereby you can go, you know, zoom in on properties or areas and actually draw on the map. There is the ability to upload photos to pinpoints on a map as well. I saw today that there was about 3 photos that someone has taken and uploaded. There's other photos that I've taken and that the region owns, and if you have photos that you think are really special and would like to upload, I could either do it for you or you could do it yourself. There's an opportunity to ask questions, and there's links to other studies, namely the region's Culture Heritage Landscape Implementation Guideline, but also the study that this current study is modeled after, and that Marg was a member of the steering committee for, and it was the Wellesley and Woolwich Culture Heritage Landscape Study, which was basically an inventory and preliminary mapping. So,
Rachel,
yeah.
if I could just jump in for a sec, they said you can try sharing it again. It might work.
Okay, let me see.
I was waiting for a pause to mention that too, Tracy.
It's
Hey, there you go.
Hey.
there's my desktop. There's me.
Oh, where are you?
That is, you know what? I think that's Carmel, or right by that beautiful bridge. That's the Zoom invite. This is interesting. Okay, so if you type in, can you see the web browser now?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. So up in the web browser, it's engagewr.ca. And then click on the Region of Waterloo's dedicated page. And my internet is super slow. All my children must be on Netflix right now. And if you scroll down to Culture Heritage Landscape Study in Wilmot and North Dumfries. So this is sort of the landing page. So on the right-hand side, there's sort of key dates. They're all pretty loose. And I'm not being very hard on our researcher simply because of the difficulties that he's experiencing in this new sort of COVID world. So they're all pretty loose. You know, at some point this summer, we'll have a virtual public open house. You could consider this Engage Waterloo Region page to be an ongoing open house. And then this winter, early spring next year will be the final document. So if you scroll down, this is the news feed. It just kind of tells you any sort of information as things come up, or if there is a public open house held, this will be advertised here. There on the right-hand side, there's photos of landscapes in North Dumfries, as well as in Wilmot here. And again, I was a little bit limited by the photos that I could take, and I'm not a very good photographer, and the photos that the region already owned. So if you come up here, you can see there's the CHL survey, and this is so slow. There's a lot of information up front, and this is because the University of Waterloo has a great, they have a great deal of ethics associated with their research. So everything is very transparent, and there's a lot of language here. You can read it all, or you can skip through it, as long as you understand that what you provide in the survey, you know, will not be linked back to you in any way. At one point in the survey, we do ask for your phone number if you would like to be contacted for greater, you know, for a one-on-one interview or to provide more in-depth information. But again, that phone number is not linked to your survey responses. Then we also have the ability to upload photos on your map. Oh, it's also slow. You click on the map, and someone has uploaded some photos of the Nith River Valley. So what's unique is you can actually put, similar to Google Maps, you can drop a pin on the map and then show what you're looking at that location. And then the actual mapping exercise is, it's embedded in the survey, but also it's an ArcGIS tool. And again, so much words. So a lot of people might be scared off by this, which is why we feel that a lot of the engagement that that we'll undertake will be more one-on-one in nature, walking individually through this mapping process. But basically, let's look at Hayesville. You can zoom right in. Some structures may show up. Oh, no, they won't, not in this location. In the urban areas of Baden and New Hamburg, and even some structures in New Dundee show up on the map when you zoom in far enough. But basically, if you want to draw on the map an area, you click on that and you can, it's super slow, so I don't know what's going on here, but you can basically identify an area that you think is a landscape. And then when you're done, there's a couple of questions you can fill out and submit. I'm not going to submit it because I have no idea what I just circled there. And that's that for the tool. But again, our researcher, Christopher, I just admitted someone, sorry, will go over this in more detail through a more in-depth workshop with the, Christopher, is that you? I'm not sure who I just let in. Tracy, you might want to kick them out again if you're not sure who they are.
Okay, it could be a committee member that's maybe calling in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got to say right now. If you guys have any questions, or if you just want to play around on the Engage page, or wait until we do the formal workshop together.
Well, thanks very much, Bridget. That was very cool. I was playing around on the website a little bit too, just to kind of check it out. And it looks like it's a good format and a good way to poke around and look at things. So I think it'll be useful for people. So you said you were hoping to be able to have a workshop with the committee, maybe this fall or something, or was that the idea, to have your researcher come back and meet with us as well?
Yeah.
Okay. But you're obviously looking for any input we have now on any landscapes, or we can go in and draw on the map and stuff like that.
Absolutely. If even right now, if there are some landscapes on the top of any members' lines that they want to share right now to ensure that they are evaluated, I'd be happy to accept them.
Okay. Does anyone have any landscapes they wanted to mention? Oh, I see, Barry, you have your hand up.
Yep. Thanks, Bridget, for the information there. How many landscapes would you be looking for with this project? Like, do you have a maximum, minimum? No. Okay.
Hopefully more than one or two. Off the top of my head, I can think of at least 5 in Wilmot, but there's probably many more. I think in the last study, Mark, maybe you could refresh my mind. I think there was about 15, at least 15 in each municipality that were identified.
I think that's about right. I remember seeing, I think, around 40 total between the two. So not that that's a benchmark, but that's just a comparison.
I was going to say, I bet you Wilmot will probably triple that. I know I've been jotting down the last couple meetings when we were bringing up some features that definitely fit the criteria for it. And I've been kind of keeping an ongoing list of ones that we spoke about that we wanted to add when the time came. So
Well, Mark,
Bridget can make it a contest.
Yeah.
Hi, Bridget. Are you planning at all on publishing it? Because the last time we did, and it was such a beautiful publication with the pictures and everything in it. Is there a budget to publish, or is it strictly online?
It will likely be online.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Are you on speaker?
I'm just on my regular computer speaker. It will likely be online unless someone specifically requested us to print it.
Okay.
Yvonne, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, thank you, Bridget. That was really informative. I've already been prowling around on the website, and so if there's something that looks really wonky, it could very well have been me because I just went in. So once an individual puts something on the map, that is just that. There's no indication that it's been done. Like you can't go on and see what other people have nominated. Or can you?
That's true. And actually that was at the request of our researcher. They wanted the integrity of the landscapes to be maintained. They didn't want others to be influenced by one person's opinion. I like to think of it the other way because I'm always like, oh yeah, that makes me think of that. But I think once we have this list, this preliminary list, and we can bring this preliminary list back to this group, that's when the brainstorming and the sparking of other examples might come. But yeah, I agree with you. It is kind of like you press send and you're like, okay, you know, or maybe you want to see what other people have done to get a little bit of, you know, your juices flowing. But I understand that, but it was intentional. The researchers wanted it that way.
Oh, Harold.
Can I just ask for a bit of clarification on that, Bridget? Because when I go in, there's a gentleman who's posted 3 photos, and I can see that he's posted those though. So is it kind of if you type in your suggestion, you can't see who's typed in what, but if somebody posts a photo of their suggestion, you can see it, right? So there is a bit of that blend, I think. So if you post a photo, Yvonne, people would be able to see that you've posted that. So to a certain extent, Bridget, it does kind of like it might be better just to go all in one way or the other.
That's actually a really good point. Now that you mentioned
it kind of creates, you see a picture and you're more inclined to say, oh, there's a picture that must be important. Just a thought.
Yeah, and that was a tool that I added, the ability to upload photos, simply because I don't have a ton of photos. So are you suggesting, Harold, that we just delete that tool? Or
no, I'd be inclined to go the other direction.
Okay.
So we can see what
Personally.
everyone has. Yeah.
Because I think it's good to see the ideas, and it helps people. They might not completely understand. And it might be, although the risk of allowing people to upload photos, unless there's a fail-safe that you get to approve those photos that are uploaded before they go, you could run a risk of somebody uploading something inappropriate. So I don't know if that's built in too, but these days you just never know, right? So that would be something to maybe, I don't know if that's built in, that it has to be approved by the administrator first.
There is some screening done, not by me. There's screening for language, and then there's screening for obscenities in the photographs. But there are other, you know, political photos that you can take without having obscenities in them. So yeah, so I check on a daily basis to make sure nothing is out of line. But I agree. I think being able to see what other people are thinking helps me. So I will definitely run it by the researchers, but they're the researchers. And I'm just a staff member, so we'll see.
Okay. Well, either way, it's a very cool tool, and I think the ability to go in and look at the map and draw on areas that you think are important is a good idea. So it'll be neat to see what input you guys will get from that. Anyone else have any other thoughts they wanted to share? Oh, Yvonne.
just quickly before we moved on. So at this point, Bridget, you would just like to see as many members of the public get onto Engage WR and do this. Now, the thing is that you have to actually sign up for Engage WR to do this.
Is that your experience? Because I
Well, I am already signed up, but when I went to Engage WR, it asked me to log in. And so I'm just trying to make sure, because you encourage people to do it, but if you're saying, but you've got to create a username and password, do you know, can you get into it without actually creating an account?
on our page, yes, which is why I was wondering if it just prompted you because you are a regular user.
Yeah.
So yes, you can. The way I've set it up, for example, you could send out just a link to the survey, and people can take the survey anonymously without having to sign up, because I do think that is a barrier. When people say, oh gosh, I need to sign up and fill out my name and all this, forget it. So that's the way I set it up. So that's why I was curious with your experience, and perhaps other people on the committee that have not signed up for this Engage Waterloo Region platform. If you could try it out and see if you're prompted, then I can complain to our administrator and make sure that people can get in. This isn't a contentious issue. It shouldn't be, at least. So that's why I removed all those requirements. So if it's not working and it is prompting you and forcing you to sign up, please let me know and I'll try to correct that.
I think when I went in, it just let me, like, I used the link in the email update that you guys sent out. And I think I just clicked in it and it brought me right there and I didn't have to sign in. But I should double check too, that I wasn't
Already
staying signed in. Yeah.
Okay.
Harold, did you have a?
Yeah, I just did it real quick and it didn't require me to log in. I do have an account, but I didn't use it. So definitely it lets you fill it in without. It could be that maybe Yvonne, your browser just had you remember that site, so it knew that you were a regular.
Okay, that's good. Margaret, did you have something?
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm fine.
Thought your hand was up. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll let you go, Bridget. Thanks so much for coming and sharing this. It's a very exciting project, so it'll be great to see it, how it turns out.
Yes, thank you all for having me. I'm also very excited about it. So thank you, and we'll see you again soon, either in June or September.
Okay,
Thanks.
sounds great.
Bye.
Thanks. All right. Moving on then. Unless anyone else had anything for the CHL? Going once, twice, gone? All right. Next item on a new business then was the Holland Mills Bridge plaque. So we had been working on this item over the last little while and understandably took a pause last year. So I just wanted to add it back in to get everyone thinking about it. I know Tracy mentioned Public Works would like us to finalize the layout and sign text and all that good stuff. So I think I'll just turn it over to you, Tracy. Was there anything you wanted to mention?
Certainly. So what I'll do is I'll email the committee the last version that we would have saved and just look at it with fresh eyes again. I certainly know it was a little bit too lengthy, but I'll circulate to everybody. And if, one or two people, I think we had about maybe 2 or 3 that were working on it, to just start looking at it again. And if we could finalize it, then I would be happy to, take care of the production of the sign, photos as well. I have a couple already, and then maybe we can do an installation in after the summer.
That would be great. I have a bunch of photos I took as well before the old bridge was removed. And did I ever send those to you or share them?
But if you do, I would love to add them. And if anyone has, it was the older photos I was having trouble finding. So that I would like to, and then so I will circulate everybody and we'll just pick up on this one. And I think it'll be easier this time around because a good chunk of it's already there. It's just now editing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds great. Maybe Tracy, if you send it around, then maybe we can chat about it at the next meeting too. And then if there's anything we want to chat about as a group or finalize, then we can hopefully get it installed this year. Anyone else, any comments on the Holland Mills Bridge? Al?
Yeah, I've was doing some work on a project, and I came across Titus Neville's, and I found out a little bit of interesting information because he's the guy that supposedly he did have the mill out there in the 1850s, and I found under his, I think it was in the census. I can't remember. It was a while ago. I was working on an article for something else, and we got kind of on this tangent of Titus Neville's. But there's 3 or 4 people listed under him in the census, and they seem to be living on. I would assume they were employees, but it looks as though they were living in properties that were probably owned by Neville. So it kind of sounds as though there were some houses out there at some point. We don't know where at this point. So that was kind of interesting, because I always kind of thought that and wondered that. We knew there was mill buildings, but so that's kind of interesting. I mean, we're gonna put this plaque up, and someone's going to stumble on some amazing information after we, which I guess would be good if we could somehow build a QR thing onto so that you can update the information, so that as more information does come available, then people could access it, and you wouldn't have to change the plaque.
Mm-hmm.
It is Murphy's Law that you do something like that and someone will bring you like the best photo you've ever seen after you've done a project too, or you've gone to print on something. So that's a good idea.
We'll need a second plaque, maybe. Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to getting this one finished up. It'll be neat to see it installed. And Tracy, you have some of the salvage materials from when it was taken down as well, right?
That's correct. I have the pins.
Right.
The write-up was all about the pins in the truss bridge,
Yeah.
which were far larger than I thought. But yeah, I've got the Public Works storing them for me.
Excellent. All right. I think we can move on to, I'd put in meeting schedule updates. So we talked about it last meeting. So now we're back to the 6:30 meeting time. And then I think we'll keep that until we can, well, when we meet in person, we'll be at 6:30 anyway. But so due to committee of adjustment meetings though, on the first Wednesday, we have to meet on the second Wednesday. So if that's still good for everybody, I think we'll just keep the second Wednesday until we can meet in person again, and then look at going back to the first Wednesday if we want to. Does this time generally work for everyone?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. And I think Jen, it would have worked for her, and same with Scott. He said he was held up at work late. Artem just said he couldn't make it tonight, but I think generally that it should work for them as well. Al, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just a comment. So we probably will not be meeting in July and August, correct? Or will we be meeting one of those months?
I have a feeling we might have July on it, but either we keep it or we can defer it.
Yeah, just I'm gonna be heading north and east shortly after the June meeting, and it's probably highly unlikely I'm going to be able to participate in a Zoom meeting, simply because we don't have the internet connection. So I'm sort of going to be I'm going to be out of the loop. I mean, I'll still have text. People can text or email. There is a possibility, especially if Bridget does her thing, that I could make something work by going to the Maynooth Public Library.
I think I was talking to you from a library last summer.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that was weird,
time.
but I mean, that's what everybody does in Maynooth.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the library,
Yeah.
and the signal is strong enough that you can actually sit in your car. So Tammy did that a lot last year for some of her meetings with the Horticultural Society, because she's their treasurer. So yeah, that is a possibility, especially if Bridget is going to be setting something up for September.
I was just going to say for the Holland Mills Bridge, then we've got just over a month to get you to work on that then before you leave.
Well, I might have had something more. I was going to do an article on Titus Neville's for Paul Knowles, but we went in another direction, and it's a good thing because the article I did turned out to be quite long. So he's going to be putting out his annual publication sometime next month. So that's, we'll see. I still have a number of other irons in the fire on articles that I'm working on. So
I'm just teasing. But don't worry about it. Mhm.
So you're good for the June meeting, right, Al? But then after
yeah,
that,
I'm
not?
good for,
Okay.
yeah, I'll still be around for the June meeting, but, probably unless, we have that workshop with Bridget, I'll probably not be available for Zooms.
Okay.
Unless the township wants to hook up. Tell Bell to put better internet service up to Papineau Lake. So.
Talk to Carl.
Yeah. Okay, so I think then Mark.
I'm gonna have to go. I have another Zoom meeting. I've signed up for a garden thing. So
Oh, yes.
thanks very much, everybody, and I'll see you in June.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
Okay, so we'll continue on the second Wednesday for now, and we'll see what the next few months bring.
And I'll circulate the updated meeting dates so everyone can put them in their calendar.
Okay, great. So moving on to correspondence. I didn't have anything on the agenda, but then thought there's a couple EAs that are underway. And I know Tracy's got a couple emails just to provide heritage resources near them. So the one was Trussler Road reconstruction, I think the region is doing. And then there's also one getting underway for the Morningside sewage plant upgrade. So I know those were the ones you were circulated about. So that was just a request to provide any heritage resources around. So I expect that as those get going, there will be an opportunity for open house, probably online, and there'll be some more news about that. I think they were both being done by the region, so it'll be on the region's website. Was there anything else that you wanted to add on those, Tracy? No? Okay. So that was all I had for correspondence. Under the roundtable info sharing, I just wanted to mention a couple of news articles. So after the last meeting, Tracy had sent around a couple articles from the Wilmot Post and also the Record. The one was about the township committees and the other one about the Miller House. I thought they both turned out really great and very useful. Some good information in there. I also noticed there's one other article I wanted to mention. Last week in the Wilmot Post, there was one talking about the mill. I know we talked about that last meeting. It's too bad Margaret left because she's mentioned it. But about the mill, it's now been sold to a group who's interested in turning it into a community hub, talking about mixed use and affordable housing and things like that. So I expect we'll start to see some news on there in the next little while. I just have a hard copy of the article, but Tracy, you have, actually I can get online too.
I could scan it and send it like I did last time with the mill, no problem.
Great. So I guess we'll see what else happens there, but that was just some news on the mill. Anyone else, any info sharing? Going once, going twice, Tracy? No?
I was gonna say, I wish we did. The museum's still closed. Yeah, no, I wish we did, but no, unfortunately, just busy on lots. But it's great articles that I've seen in all the different publications, which I'm enjoying to read, and lots of interesting conversations. So
Great. Well, with that, so our next meeting will be June 9th at 6:30. So it sounds like that works for everyone. So we'll go with that. And motion to adjourn. Al. Excellent. And Barry. Perfect. I think that's it, everybody. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you on June 9th.
have a good night, everyone.